mense deur moeilike tye gaan. Vader, ons kom vra U ook, wees U vir die gas in hierdie vergadering, Here Jesus. Gee vir ons insig en wysheid van hom hoog, Here Jesus. Alles wat ons sal doen, laat ons dit doen tot uitbreiding van die koninkryk en in die belang van die gemeenskap. Vader, ons vra hierdie dinge nie uit verdienste nie, maar om die heilige naam se wil. Baie dankie. Amen.
Okay, amen. Aansoek, punt nommer 2, aansoek om verlof tot afwesigheid. Ek het geen ontvang. Dankie. Verklarings nog mededelings deur die voorsitter. Ek het eintlik nie vanoggend klomp verklarings nie. Al wat ek net kan sê, soos ons voorheen gesê het, as daar 'n punt is waarby jy belang het, maak maar net seker dat jy jou verlange beklaar voor die tyd. Briewe ontvang, as 1 en hy's ingebind in die stukke, die een wat van die Wes-Kaap Parlement afkom, waar ons uitgenooi word na die SOPA langsaan by die ODM. Julle het almal kennis gekry daarvan, moet ek uitbrei daarop of aanvaar is dit so? Konsensus, julle weet almal daarvan. Dankie tog. By items na die raad verwys vir oorwegings, all yours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Speaker. I think item 5.1 on the agenda that has been circulated to Council is to do with the Cape Agulhas Municipality Draft Annual Report. I think everybody would be fairly familiar with the process by now. Once the audit outcome has been communicated to Council, we need to table our draft annual report, which will then be advertised for public comment. And this is now the opportunity for Council just to have a glimpse at the draft annual report before it is being advertised. I'm going to give over to Tracy, who might just be elaborate on some of the aspects of the draft annual report. Thanks.
Thank you, Yes, you'll see you've all received it. You'll see that the annual report was sent separately and the annual financial statements, which are also part of the annual report, were also sent out separately. And then Annexure B, C, and D, which is just the report of the Auditor General, the report of the Audit Committee, and the report of the Performance Audit Committee is bound in with the rest of the annexures. So yes, as the said, this is a draft annual report. Unfortunately, we know we didn't have much time, but when we put it out for public comment, councillors also have the opportunity that if you want to submit any comments on it, you're most welcome. We will also submit it to all of the ward committees. If they want to give us comments, then they're most welcome. So the process going forward, I'm going to advertise it with a closing date of the 3rd of March. Then somewhere any comments and objections or inputs that were received and consider them and make a recommendation to council. So that's the process going forward.
Have the opportunity to go on your own leisure, just peruse the report, and if you want to make any comments, you're more than welcome to do so. The management recommendation is on page 5 of the agenda, and that is that council adopts the 21-22 draft annual report as tabled by the mayor in terms of the relevant sections of the MFMA, and that it be made public and submitted to the relevant organs of state, and that the annual report be referred to MPEC to perform the oversight process and compile the oversight report, which will obviously come back to council after all those processes.
Can we accept, or is there a proposal? Show of hands, please. Accept. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Donald, Councillor Ross.
Okay, councillors, the next part is the good part of the annual report, 5.2, and that is the performance evaluations of the municipal manager and senior managers, and obviously the payment of performance bonuses. So I'm not sure, Tracy, can we be part of, or should we recuse ourselves? Ek sien Hannes het geloop, so ek neem aan. Okay,
It's fine, I can explain it.
Okay, myself, Hendrik Kroon, okay, Abdullah Aziz, I'm not sure if he's logged in, he's most probably logged in there from Saudi Arabia because he might be interested in this discussion as well. So Hendrik, myself, and you can just be recused. Thanks.
Don't spend it. Thank you, colleagues. Tracy, will you take us through, please?
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, it's a prerequisite that before bonuses can be paid to the municipal manager and directors, that the draft annual report needs to be tabled to council. So thank you for approving the previous item. So we can now consider this one. We did the performance evaluations as far back as in November. But like I say, the item's obviously been standing over until we got the annual report tabled. I just want to point out that I made a bit of an error on the report that I just need to bring to your attention. And that specifically relates to the performance of the municipal manager. In terms of legislation, you know, the legislation sort of gives an upper limit and a lower limit, and the bonuses, you know, can fall within that. So, for example, if you get between 65% and 74.5%, the bonus that is allocated is between 5% and 9%, and that is actually the council's prerogative. In terms of our agreements, we've always had 8% as being the bonus applicable to the municipal manager. And that is also what is in his contract at this point in time. But when the performance evaluations were done, I was in a training at the time, so I actually wasn't present in them. And when the consultant did their report following the evaluations, they put the municipal manager's bonus at 9%. And some municipalities at that level give 8, some give 9. So I just wanted to point that out to the council, that the 9% recommended for Mr. Phillips is actually an error, but it's also not unlawful. It falls within the range that is allowed in terms of legislation. So it's the prerogative of council to decide if we go with the 8% that's in his agreement, or if you want to make it the 9% as what I have it in the recommendation, that is also falls within the legislation. It is permissible. So that is up to the council to decide.
Any comments? Inputs? Raadslid? Die jongman.
Thank you, Alderman Jantjies. Just what's the monetary valuation of the percentage, the 1%? So we can just maybe, if you can just clarify that point, and then maybe we can make a decision based on that.
I would have to actually get that figure from Hannes. What I can tell you is that the full bonuses were actually budgeted and set aside for all of the directors, and as you can see, only 2 of them scored scored 14%, which is full bonuses anyway. So there is sufficient funding on the budget. But if you like, what we can do is we can just establish what that 1% is, and then possibly come back to the item later.
Speaker, ja, ek wil net eerste vraag vir Tracy, as ek reg gehoor het, die evaluering is November gedoen.
Dit is reg, raadslid.
Is daar enige geld uitbetaling?
Nee, die bonusse kan nie uitbetaal word totdat die jaarverslag ter tafel gelê is.
Dan wil ek twee goed wil ek noem. Ek het nie geweet van die 8 en die 9% nie. My een voorstel is laat ons voorstaan by die 9 soos dit is. En die ander ene is dat ek is nie gelukkig met die indirekteur se evaluering nie. Meneer Jacob se evaluering nie. Ek is glad nie gelukkig daarmee. Soos ek gesê het, toe hy hier gewees het, hy doen goed vir die munisipaliteit. Ek ben daar is nie twyfel daaroor nie. Maar ek dink hy doen so goed nie. So dit is die rede hoekom ek dit noem so. Ek het dit vir hom gesê toe hy hier gewees het, en ek sê dit weer, ek kan nie dit ondersteun nie.
Goed, kom ons begin net by die eerste ene. Ons het 'n voorstel dat dit 9% bly. Is daar sekondant? 'n Sekondant, daar's 'n sekondant. Die voorstel was dat die 9% aanvaar word vir die munisipale bestuurder. So ek het so 'n voorstel, ek soek 'n sekondant, en ek dink raadslid Mokotwana het hand opgesteek. Baie dankie, ons het hom. Wat die tweede een betref, Tracy, nou sal ons eenvoudig moet eers konsulteer met die MM en dan terugvoering gee aan raadsheer Jantjies. Is dit korrek?
Yes, yeah, maybe just to clarify, you know, the performance evaluations are actually done by a panel comprising the municipal manager, an external municipal manager, and also the portfolio chair. We also have the chairperson of the audit committee always sitting in just to make sure that the process is fair. So that's basically how the evaluations are done. It would be quite difficult, I think, to dispute this, you know, given that contractually he went through the evaluation, the process was followed, it was a fair process. So I think it would be quite difficult to dispute this.
Dankie, ek het hom so en ek sien Blakkie stem saam daarmee, so dan sal ons daarby volstaan. Dan moet raadsheer Jantjies maar net jou teenstem aanteken. Okay. Okay, Marius het hom klaar so. Okay. Dankie.
Yes, Speaker, saamstem. I was also part of the panel, and you know all information that was put in front of us. It was an open process. And I want to, you know, ek wil dit eintlik voorstel dat soos dit wat voorgestel het dat so aanvaar by al die direkteure.
Ons het so voorstel, het ons 'n sekondant, daar's 'n sekondant, Raadslid Ross, dankie, ons stap af van die een af.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Speaker and Councillors. I think if that has been concluded, we're now at 5.3 in the agenda, and that is the mid-year budget and performance assessment report, which is starts on page 7 of the agenda. And it's all to do with the adjustment budget as well. So I'll give over to the CFO just to lead us into the discussion in terms of this item, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I think one of the legislative requirements is actually to have a mid-year assessment during December for your based on your performance for the first 6 months, and then there are specific guidelines or prescripts in the Act how and when it's then necessary to do an adjustment budget. I think from the onset, and I think from the report that was prepared by the manager, Mr. Sean Stanley, it's quite clear it wasn't foreseen during the budget period when we approved the 2022-23 budget. But I think it's like a golden thread that run right through our finances at the moment, that put a lot of pressure on us as a municipality, and that is the load shedding. I think one of the key factors in an assessment is to assess whether there's a downward trend in terms of your revenue collection, and then there's a requirement to do an adjustment to also adjust your expenditure downwards. And then obvious, the other things that normally form part of it is if there's additional revenue. That is normally grant funding, especially from provincial treasury. If there's any adjustment normally during this period of time, then we normally receive additional grant funding, which we also need to incorporate in the budget. And I think then the other things is if there are any environments that the municipality applied, or if there's any errors within your budget, but you might pick up during the course of the year, is actually then for correction of that. So when we assess, and I think the report was submitted to the mayor, and then in that normally there's also recommendation what we need to look at. Now, I think what I've indicated when we're looking at the adjustment budget that's been submitted to council today, it's a given. It's unfortunately What we try doing from the municipality side is to lessen the impact of the load shedding on the municipal finances. And obvious, if there's any shortfall now, it will come from the reserves, because there's no way that we can adjust any tariffs up until the end of June. Just to give council an indication, I think, and the biggest impact there is almost a loss of between 9 to 12 million rand on our revenue. What we projected, that we will sell less units due to the load shedding. So that's already a downward trend in terms of our projection. And then obviously the other thing is, during this period of time, it becomes more and more challenging from the infrastructure side to keep our services running, our water pumps and all of that. So yes, although we made good progress since 2016, when we experienced it the first time, the impact of load shedding in Strathspey, I think there was a lot of things that we've done during the years where we purchased more generators. I think when I look at the report, currently it's 26 generators at the moment, of which we run short of about 5, which we didn't expect in Bredasdorp, Arniston, and those areas, to make sure that our water pumps are still running. So obvious, together with that, beside the fact that one will have to procure more fuel to keep these generators running. And I think the Acting Director Infrastructure, Mr. Steve Cooper, he already prepared quite a comprehensive report. The impact of load shedding, especially if it's running on level 6, it costs the municipality in the vicinity of 450,000 per month additional. Now, those are costs which wasn't budgeted for initially, which all of a sudden the fuel prices, the impact of keeping those generators running to ensure that our services are not interrupted. I think, yes, looking at that, the fuel cost is almost sure to deliver so close to 4.36 surplus, to 4.36 surplus. There's now to the bone. Plan. We just move it out to the outer year to give us a little breathing space for the 5 months up till the end of the financial year. And surely then we will take it into account in the new budget year to ensure, seeing that it's still a priority, that then we will implement. So that was the principle we apply even on our operating expenditure. We really look where there's no into, we just had to cut down in terms of our budget. And I think eventually we end up more or less with a deficit on the adjustment budget close to 5 million rand for the year, which we actually worse says, when we consult the MACO and the items in the impact, just a summary on that. So maybe I can just touch on some of those items, but it's in the budget report. Just my apology. Apology, I just want to connect. If one look at page 6, we also had to make sure that we are realistic in terms of where we project a little bit more revenue. On our property rates, we foresee an increase of revenue to close to 5 million, and the main reason for that is due to the impact of the interim valuations, that's been added onto this, and that is really a realistic projection. But definitely there will be more on the electricity. What we have indicated for now, it's actually less 9, almost 10 million rand, although it can be higher depending on what's happening, but we're conservative in terms of that. And then also on the rental of facilities, now that we're getting back to normal, our resorts, it's also projected more or less a 900, close to 1 million rand additional revenue that we project still towards the end of the year. Seeing that the municipalities still maintain a high level of cash reserves, and also the increase on the interest rate, it seems like up till now what we already collected in terms of our investment and going forward, that that there will be additional 3 million rand what we added onto that, because I think we were very conservative when we normally do the budgeting. Then also in terms of the transfer and the grants of subsidies, there's an additional amount of 17 million rand promulgated now. I will just give a little bit of detail. What are those 17 million rand and for the purpose we receive? And then on the gains, on the disposal of our property, we anticipated 50 million rand, but we realized, I think there's a lot of other challenges, environmental impact studies on some of those property we identified. And we also unfortunately have to reduce it to be more realistic. Although it's still a challenging target, we will just see how we will get to that. Maybe just to reflect on the grant side, it's actually the biggest impact maybe that I can just give council an indication. We have received a grant for capacity building, and that is for the restructuring of our organogram performance system. We submitted the business plan. We received 300,000 for that, although the costs be slightly higher. Then also we have received a financial support grant, in terms of some of our financial projects. And then I think the biggest impact there, we have received an additional 50 million rand, and that's been added to the rent to own. It will allow the municipality, at the moment we had received 10 million rand for that project. We could have close to 30 units. Now at least the first phase up to 60 units that we can complete with that. So we're very glad for that funding that has been added. Then also we received for 92,000, that is a title deed restoration on the housing grant. And then also there's a 1.656, and I think that was on the electricity part. It's also on the housing, my apology. And then on the housing, the library grant, we have received 306,000, which gives us a total additional revenue from grant funding. It's about 17.6 million rand. So that is actually the biggest impact. So if one then reflect on the report on page 13 or page 12 on the operating expenditure side, like we said, we had to also adjust our budget downwards. So we looked at our salary component. If there were any vacancies, normally we budget for the full year, and also our contributions, those non-cash items. We also aligned that. So there's a downward adjustment of 3.8 million rand, where we decrease our salary component. And then on the inventory consumed, you will see there's additional amount, and that is the impact of the grant funding, that 17 million or 50 million we received that normally reflect there. But then also on contracted services, we adjust downwards with almost just above 2 million rand. And then on the other expenditure, there's also an increase then, mainly based on some of the grant funding, what we received. So if one look at the grant funding, the rental of equipment and the fuel cost that's been added to that based on our projection. So if one look then from the original budget, together with all of these adjustments, our expenditure budget then increased with 23.6 million rand. Of which the bulk, like I've indicated, is grant funding, the 50 million that we had to reflect on, as well as that additional cost for fuel, as well as for the rental of equipment. Then on the capital budget, what we have indicated, although the net effect on the adjustment budget reflect an increase on the budget, we had to cut severely on a number of items, and that is actually on page 14 of the budget document. We had to cut quite a number of projects, like I've indicated, which not started. But then what we did was also then the generators that was budgeted in the outer year, 3 million rand, we moved this to this year to speed up the process, as well as on the recycling at the landfill site. It's a MIC funded grant. And based on our projections, there was less allocated or approved from MIC funding. And then also on the outer years, we had to move an additional 1.5 million rand. So the net effect, and also some additions to that, we received for the Safe House 120,000. On the library side, there was also funding for computer equipment that's been added to that. So the net impact on that is actually 71 million rand compared to the approved budget. So those are the biggest components within the budget. And definitely, if we continue like that, it will not be financially sustainable for the municipality in the long run. To keep up the services or the standard and the level of services, and the impact of the load shedding. Yesterday, there was an announcement by the Western Cape Provincial Government where they will allocate funding. We have applied for the 3 million rand for the generators. Hopefully, we can get funding from that to support us. And that is actually to limit the impact of load shedding on municipalities. And I think this is just now a baseline for us to start a new year. But surely all of these additional costs, if we continue like that, it will definitely have an impact on the services and the tariffs, to keep up with that. And I think, we will be in for a tough year or two going ahead in terms of how we will manage and still ensure that we provide services to our community. And secondly, whatever they then pay for those services, it's still affordable. So, Mr. Speaker, that is all from my side. In terms of the requirements from MSCOA, this budget, all the tables, all the documentation should come from the system. This information is drawn from the system, but there are specific tables in terms of the way how we report to Provincial National Treasury, that is the B schedules. It's also drawn from the system, and we will just make sure that we put this as an attachment, but all the information on the summary is also reflecting in the detailed reports. So that is all from my side. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you very much, CFO. Speaker, I see there's a couple of hands.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank our CFO for the comprehensive report that has highlighted the seriousness and the impact that the state of Eskom and load shedding is having on our small municipality. And to Steve and his department that have kept the water pumping from boreholes to reservoirs and into our taps. And one last thing, but certainly not least, a big congratulations to the CFO and our internal audit department for our 9th consecutive clean audit. And we can see how it's done with strict financial management.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments? Raadslid Jantjies? Raadslid Mokotwana.
Okay, thank you very much. On our side, I think, Speaker, we had a steering committee meeting which was held in the same building, or which are some other parts of the budget, adjustment budget that we supported. And then there was also a proposal, I hear what the CFO was referring to, for the renting of those generators with certain individuals, certain companies. I think there was also the proposal of buying our own generators. I think that should be speed up, maybe that process. Secondly, if we should even look at the way that maybe the Masakhane police, I think we have got some confrontation within the community with that regard. So, and there was a certain presentation in different words, and that means there was a serious cry from the community. So I thought that maybe they will bring up the adjustment budget. How should we look at that? So it's also very difficult for us maybe just to support the thing that only touched some certain individual, but those people outside were struggling. We are here even to serve the community. When we serve the community, we must serve the community to the best of our ability, and even every community should receive the same service that we're looking for. But the people whom that are struggling even to address those challenges, it's a problem. When I was encouraged by people crying about the policy that really touched them in their life, affect them. When I visited Napi, the same applies, even here in Badago. So that means there's no proper presentation and also agreement when a public participation was supposed to take place before the policy was implemented by the inside.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comments?
Dankie, speaker. Ja, speaker, ek dink Raad het ook 'n Twana het gesê amper wat ek wil gesê het. Dit gaan juist oor die Masekane policy. En dit is vir my regtig waar ek meen ons was sone is absoluut onaanvaarbaar vir ons en op daai manier sal ek nooit die aanvullende begroting steun as dit reg gemaak word nie. Ek meen dit is onaanvaarbaar. Dit is ons armstes van ons armstes wat ly daaronder. En dit is nie gekommunikeer met, dit is eintlik ongrondwetlik. En dit is herhaaldelik onder ons amptenare en ons afdeling se aandag gebring. En daar is ook hierdie raad opdrag gegee vir vergaderings so goed. En ons het dit gedoen en ons het weer terugvoer ook gegee. So dit is die rede. As daar nie enige regstelling is nie, wil ek my teenstem daaraan aanteken. Ek weet hulle vat het maar ligtelik op, hulle vat ons die kop toe nie, maar hulle hoef het ons die kop toe te vat nie, maar ons doen net ons deel wat wetlik moet gedoen word. As enige tariewe verhoog word, moet die publiek ingelig word daar buitekant. En dit is vir ons onaanvaarbaar.
Die raadsheer Jantjies, ek het hom so, ek sien burgemeester se lig is aan.
Speaker, baie dankie. Ek dink ons moet die twee issues van mekaar skei. Ons is hier te doen met die huidige begroting. And you know, we've heard everything, all the issues in the budget steering committee, and what led to this very difficult adjustment budget. En ek dink ons moet ons dealing met die huidige die effek wat load shedding het op die finansies en die vooruitsigte vir die munisipaliteit wat dienslewering ons betref. En die issue rondom die Masekane policy moet weer gebring word na die raad sodat ons daaroor kan debatteer op die pad vorentoe. Maar op hierdie stadium moet ons deel met hierdie punte begin en dit is die adjustment op die budget van die huidige boekjaar. Thank you.
Speaker.
Dankie.
Ja, ek wil net regstelling maak as een my verkeerd verstaan het. Ons bespreek hierdie huidige begroting. Ons maar nou nie die helfte daarvan. Dis die adjustment budget. Ons is besig daarmee. En dit gaan oor die Masekane. Dis nie 'n nuwe begroting nie. Dis 'n begroting wat ons Julie maand of Mei maand goedgekeur het vir hierdie boekjaar. So dit is in hierdie begroting.
Ek het hom so. Ja.
Speaker, ek raak bekommerd as ons praat van 'n policy wat verander moet word of wat Raadseer Jantjies graag wil laat verander. Maar die policy is nie nou hier budget. En ek dink dis belangrik en ons as 'n raad, ja, ons wil graag kyk hoe ons die armes kan help. Ons wil dit graag doen. En ons wil dit graag doen op alle maniere in terme van die Masekane projek en ook in terme van veiligheid. Weet? En ons moet kyk hoe ons gemeenskappe daar buite kan help. Want ons gemeenskappe is besig om te sneuwel in terme van armoede en ook in terme van hulle eie veiligheid ook. So ons moet baie versigtig wees wanneer ons 'n issue na die tafel bring wat dit nie ter sprake is op die agenda nie. Dankie.
Dankie collega's, nog iemand iets wil sê?
Ek kan nie sien hoe kan dit nie op die agenda wees nie. Ek meen Masakane is deel van die begroting. Ek meen hoe kan dit nie op die agenda wees nie? So ek kan glad nie saamstem met die raadslid nie.
Dankie raadsheer. Meneer Van Biljon, wil jy 'n bietjie opklaring gee?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the legislation is quite correct. If we make changes to a policy directive now, it's not allowed, because then it means it will become effective now. So what about those people who have, then you have to deal in terms of the approved budget. Now you come with certain amendments to that and it have an impact. So what normally you're not allowed to come up with any tariff changes during the course of the year, except where there's a severe error that might have an impact on that one. So that's why I'm saying we had the discussion and we had even had workshops with the community, because this policy, when it was changed on request of the community. And it was during the budget committee at that time, it was communicated to everybody, and the policy haven't changed. And we have had discussion during the COVID, it wasn't implemented to its full extent. We had the session, the workshop with the community. We have already give them an indication what we're looking at. And surely this will be a key document or key issue that we will have to address during the budget, because it's all about, yes, we're looking at our indigents, we're taking care of the vulnerable people, but we also need to find a way what is affordable to the municipality. And I think that is also from National Treasury. It's a directive how we manage our indigents, the way we do. And I think what we have indicated to them, and I think that's what we're busy doing now, even during those workshops, what we said to the community, we will look at that. We will look into the tariff, how we apply to make it more affordable to the community. Because at the moment, the way our council apply the policy, it's still far above the guidelines and directives from National Treasury. So remember, this is an adjustment. It's purely to assess our performance, where we are. There are specific directives, what you need to look at and what you can adjust or not adjust. But unfortunately, we cannot address a policy or tariff during this, or even on your salaries, you cannot change on your structure. So, but what we will do, and I think that was a promise and a commitment to the community, is when we go into this budget, new budget cycle 23-24, that we will look into the policy again, and we will also looking at the tariff, how we will apply it, and maybe to make it more affordable to those people who are in real need. And to still make sure that the municipality can afford providing those services. So it will definitely be an issue, but for this, during the adjusted, you cannot change policies or any tariffs.
Dankie, ek verstaan het 100%. Ek weet jy kan dit nie doen nie. Al wat moet gebeur is wat hulle verkeerd gedoen het aan die begin van die begroting moet reggestel word. Dit is wat gebeur. Daar word implementeer. Omrede hulle het die gemeenskap aangelig nie. Enige een in die raadsvergadering weet, as daar een man is wat praat in 'n raadsvergadering, is dit Dirk Jantjies. Sê vir my, hoe sal ek dit nie genoem het en gepraat het oor nie? As ons 'n fout maak, of weet jy wat hulle dit call nie, dan moet ons mans genoeg wees. Maar ons het dit geïmplementeer sonder die wete van die mense daar buitekant. Dit is bottom line. Dis nie 'n nuwe policy wat nou hoef te verander word of goed nie. Dit is dit. En ek kan vir jy sê, hulle 10 ander kaarte weer om te skiet as ons by die nuwe begroting wil kom. So ek stel nie daar wel lang nie.
Ek net sorry. Speaker, ons wat anders ook te sê, ons wat ek tevore gesê het, ons deel nou met die punt op die agenda. Die huidige begroting waarin ons staan was deur die raad goedgekeur. Dit was deur die raad aanvaar en goedgekeur. En omstandighede het ons daarna gedwing om vir die eerste keer in die geskiedenis was om so baie moeilik adjustment budget syfers aan te pas. Ek dink ons as raadslede moet die manmoedigheid en die volwassenheid toon dat ons werk vir ons gemeenskap lei. Dit kan anders gewees het. Dat soos in baie munisipaliteite hierdie load shedding lei tot 'n dienslewering wat nie gelewer kan word nie. Damme wat leegloop, riool wat in strate loop en Kapagalas is ten minste nog daar ons gemeenskap kan dien omdat ons finansiëel goed bestuur word. So ek wil net vra dat ons deel met die punt op die agenda en dat die huidige begroting deur die raad reeds goedgekeur is. Thank you.
Dankie, ek dink ons het dit nou deeglik genoeg debatteer. Die punt op die agenda, management recommendation, council considers the content of the mid-year assessment report attached as an annexure. Council considers the approval of the adjustment budget for the financial year 22-23 and indicative for the projected outer years 23-24 and 24-25 attached as an annexure. Council consider the content of the mid-year performance information as per the service delivery budget implementation plan SDBIP on pages 59 to 84. Het ek 'n voorstel dat ons dit aanvaar. Ek het Council Donald nog ene sekondant, daar is 'n sekondant Council Ross. Die ander notas het jy Marius dat ons in die volgende begroting dan kyk na die maskani beleid en alles wat daarmee saamgaan. Raadseer? 'n teenvoorstel.
Yes. And then
'n teenvoorstel van Raadseer Jantjies en Raadslid Mokotwana. Dankie, MM. 5.4.
As ek verkeerd, as daar twee voorstelle is, moet daar gestem word. As daar twee voorstelle is, dan moet daar mos gestem word, of hoe? Ja? Ja.
As dit geen voorstel, so kan ons op stemming plaas dan.
Ja, speaker, op hierdie punt wil ek my teenstem laat ventileer en ook sê die rede hoekom ek nie dit ondersteun nie. Ek ondersteun dit net omrede die Masekani beleid geïmplementeer is sonder dat dit die gemeenskap daar buitekant aangelig is. Dankie.
Thank you, Speaker. 5.5 on the agenda is the spatial development framework of the municipality. I think councillors are particularly aware that we have embarked on the review of the spatial development framework. Sorry, het ek ingeskiet. Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah. 5.4 is the amendment of the service delivery budget implementation plan subsequent to the adjustment budget. Obviously, there are projects that are going to be impacted on the fact that we adjusted the budget downwards. And that is why the SDBIP also needs to be amended accordingly. 5.4 is on page 10 of the agenda, and the management recommendation is on page 11, unless Tracy wants to just indicate which aspects of the SDBIP has been amended.
Thanks, Em. Em, I don't think I'm going to go into detail, but maybe let's just give a general overview of where we changed and what we changed. That KPI is, but in this case, I think it was, justified. There are a number of other KPIs, TL9 to 15, and We put on the SDBIP, and I think I explained this after Q1 as well. It was a KPI that specifically aligned to the new Chapter 4 of the new staff regulations, specifically Chapter 4. And it was certain aspects that had to be completed by the 1st of July. But then there was a change, and the legislators decided that that chapter only comes into effect with the 1st of July next year. So the legislative need for this KPI sort of fell away, but what we decided is that we need to replace it with something that focuses on our preparedness for the 1st of July of the next financial year. So what we put in was the revision of the organizational structure, which is, I think Hannes also mentioned it, but it's a need that's been mentioned, I think, since the beginning of our strategic sessions. So we're busy with that process. So I just replaced that KPI. Then there were two more that I just replaced. TL25. Okay, this one we replaced for practical purposes entirely. There was a KPI that required in Hendrik's department that a youth council summit should take place before the end of March. But I then established that the term of the youth council is only 2 years, and an election is taking place in May, June. So basically the whole purpose of having a summit at that point in time has sort of fallen away. So I amended that KPI to rather measure the successful election of a new youth council. And then the very last one that I changed was TL37. And this is actually just a wording issue, because I think I've mentioned it to you all a number of times already, but the Auditor General is very, very specific about wording. You know, if you say you're doing this, then everything has to align to that wording. So we, in the original KPI, we spoke of the construction of the organic waste diversion site. But now there are only certain components of this that are budgeted for in the current financial year. So that's specifically the drop-off facility and the civil works. So I just changed the wording of the KPI that it aligns with what we have a budget for. Otherwise, we are going to be in trouble with this one simply because of the wording when it comes to the audit. So yeah, those are all the amendments. So yes, this is also something that we always submit after the adjustment budget and after the mid-year performance report. So yeah, the request is that council approve this, and if council is happy, we'll then just do an addendum to all the performance agreements of the municipal manager and the directors.
Any comments? Can we accept? Can I get a proposal? Thank you. The same to councillors. Etienne Marius.
Okay, now we're at 5.5, which is the spatial development framework, approval of the status quo report. We've embarked on a review of the existing spatial development framework of the municipality. Consultant has been appointed, ASICA, to administer the process on behalf of the municipality. We had a couple of public participation interactions already. There are a few more planned for the month of February. So this is just to bring the status quo. I think that's phase one of the whole process, the status quo report for council to be approved. So now I'm not sure if you want to add anything or highlight something.
The status quo report is just a draft report. You can still make inputs, and in terms of our land use planning bylaw, we should take it to council, and council should approve it. So we took it to council on the 13th of December, and it was decided that we should update it because on the 12th of December, just the day before council last year, we had our first public engagement, and we received a lot of inputs from the public, and we needed to update this report. But it's an assessment of the existing development levels in our municipal area, as well as our development challenges. And our consultant already included some spatial proposals as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Doubt if there's any questions from councillors. You also got an opportunity now to peruse the status quo report, specifically with the run-up to the public participation processes that are going to be rolled out. So it will actually be good for councillors to just familiarize themselves of the content of that report. Thank you.
Can we approve? Voorsteller, burgemeester en onderburgemeester, dankie.
Okay. The next one is an application for the purchasing of a portion of Earth 513 in Apir. I think everybody knows this is also an application that has been before council, that has been advertised for public comment. We received comment from members of the public. We've also provided the applicant, which is Bertus du Plessis Architecture, Construction and Town Planning Pty Limited, to provide responses to the comment on objections that have been received. There's a summary of all the objections in the agenda, and there's also a summary of the responses from the applicant. So now it is brought again to council to make a final resolution in terms of the alienation of that piece, that portion of 513. So I'm going to ask either Marius or Sunel if there's any additional information that you want to bring to the attention of council, or is Tracy going to lead the discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you, MM. Yeah, maybe can I just draw council's attention to the fact that we sent out a replacement item straight after the agenda. So please look at the replacement item that I sent out and not the one actually in the agenda. Yeah, this is actually quite a complicated application in the sense that we've got two sort of components to it. There is a town planning application and there is the application to purchase property. And the difficulty is that town planning applications are approved by the authorized official or the tribunal, but the authorized official and the tribunal don't have the authority to dispose of municipal land. The council, on the other hand, doesn't have the authority to approve a town planning application. So we've basically got two sort of applications almost running parallel with one another that are actually dependent on one another. So it's a bit tricky, but that is why you'll see that in this case, one thing is always subject to the other. So where we are with this at the moment is that, as the municipal manager said, council approved it in principle, we advertised it, we got comments. Whilst this is happening, the town planning application is also being advertised, and the closing date for comments on that is the 7th, I think. Yeah. So that process is also running, and I think that creates a bit of confusion sometimes because you've got two separate processes running basically on the same thing. After a lot of considering the objections and considering the recommendations, we've actually, now you'll see in the first item and also in this item, initially we proposed two sort of options. Now the one option was to sell the property in its entirety to Mr. du Plessis. The other option that we considered was selling just a portion of it as recommended by the ward committee. But I had some subsequent discussions with Mr. du Plessis afterwards, and we came to realize that if we only sell a portion of it, then the remainder of the road remains our property for which we are responsible. And, you know, with our budget at the moment, the chances of us being able to upgrade or develop that road is very scarce. So I changed the initial recommendation somewhat to recommend that we proceed with the sale. So basically the council still has two options. It's either proceed or, you know, not at all. So we've taken out the partial sale at this point in time. You will see that because there are so many other processes happening, what we are recommending is that it be approved, but subject to certain suspensive conditions that would need to be concluded prior to taking transfer of the property. So one of those would be the approval of the town planning land use application. And I'd just like to add in there, and compliance with the conditions associated with that. So that, although you'll look at this and you'll think there's not many conditions here, if you look at the town planning side of it, you'll see that's where subdivisions come in, consolidations come in, the closure of the road. So there's a whole different set of conditions attached to the town planning application. Then we proposed the registration of servitudes for municipal services, because there are some services running through there. And the third and very important point, I think, was that we recommend registration of right-of-way servitudes in favor of the two owners that are the most affected. One of the owners is very affected because it's is satisfied. The other owner has a side gate, and what we're recommending is that they both retain their access. We've also put in that, if our council's attorneys need to do the deed of sale, and that all costs be for the applicant. And then we've also put in a provision that the municipal manager be delegated to finalize the agreement of sale. So there might be some other conditions that we also need to look at, but these are the key ones. And that the objectives be informed accordingly. And also, as part of the town planning land use application, an engineering services agreement needs to be concluded. And in that agreement as well, there will be certain conditions that would need to be finalized before transfer could take place. So this is what we have proposed. I'm not sure if there's any questions.
Any questions, councillors?
Oh, sorry, I forgot the valuation. Most important part.
Yes, Speaker, we have asked one of our evaluators on the supply chain database, and he does evaluation on the specific plot. We take in consideration all the layout of the road, and with the current situation, what's going on there. And he said that the subject property considered out of a long shape, a piece of land consisting approximately 127 squares at 217 squares. That was the first part. So he do as an evaluation on the two parts. That's the bottom part firstly, and then the second part. But if you take it together, he get to a market value, and he describe it as follows. Taking the value forming factors in consideration, a fair market value of 170 rand per square meter, less 25% of for the size, the shape, and the gradient is considered as a fair market value, compounding to 127 rand 50 to a square meter. So ons het nou the market value of 127 rand 50 per square meter. That is a market value. That gives us more or less in the region of 62,300 rand somewhere. For the whole portion, yes.
Ja. Dankie, Marius. Kommentaar, vraag?
Speaker, thank you very much. I think for the purpose of transparency, I just need to declare that Mr. Du Plessis is a friend, of course, and also he has donated half a ship to the ward branch of the DA in Napier. So I just need to clear that as well.
What's the problem, Councillor Morgenthau?
He wasn't invited to the branch.
He wasn't invited.
It's declared and it's official and it's in the book. So that's good. Can we continue? Can I get any comments, any further comments? Can we accept? Show of hands. I've got a hand there. Seconder. I've got a second.
I wasn't saying even to laugh, Speaker, the way even I'm not trying, we delayed the process so very long. When we knew maybe there's a land or maybe the application be made to certain individual. So the process of assessment inspection should be done accordingly. So there's so many objections in this regard, which need to be taken care of as well. So that will delay maybe the process of the development when the applicants is made. So I'm not trying to cross-question what will be done by the official, but to speed up the process is going to take almost maybe a year when someone apply for the land. So I'm trying to figure out, but I don't want to comment what has been made. Maybe the declaration been made by the David Mayer is fine. I was trying to figure out maybe how we can get there. So it's a problem. Let us try and speed up the processes. When the process application is there, the assistance is very vital, and also the guidance and also the sort of advice to the applicant, so that we mustn't delay the process of the application of the applicant.
You speak to the converted, sir. Thank you. Can we carry on?
Okay. So there is consensus for the approval of the management recommendation. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. (5.7) Application for the temporary use on Earth 854 Straysby. This is a town planning application. I think most people would be familiar with there's a program on television. I'm not sure if it's in Kyknet or somewhere, Kokkedoor. Ja, Kokkedoor is 'n baie bekende program op televisie wat baie groot blootstelling gee veral vanaf die areas waarvandaan hulle uitsaai. Ons het nou so 'n aansoek gekry for them to use premises within the Straysby area for shooting one or filming one of those episodes. But I'm going to give over to Abram to give us a bit more background information regarding this application in front of us. Thanks.
Dankie. Homebrew Films het ons genader. Hulle wil graag 'n gedeelte van die kampeerterrein gebruik om 'n stel te bou vir Kokkedoor Vuur en Vlam. Hulle gaan ongeveer 98 dae besig wees. Die idee is maar net wat hulle in prinsip toestemming kry by die raad wat hulle kan.
Net vir raas hier 'n bietjie konteks, dit is binne in die Straysby kampeerterrein waarvandaan hulle wil kamp opslaan, stel opsit en dan daarvandaan gaan hulle dan die episode wat hulle gaan doen skiet.
Kan ons dit goedkeur? Is dit lekker advertensie en dit trek 'n klomp mense na ons dorpe toe? Dit is om so.
Speaker, ek dink is 'n baie goeie idee, maar ons moet nou nie versigtig vir 'n Trojan horse.
Dankie raadslid Lou. Ek het twee mense wat reeds aangedui het, 'n sekondant en 'n voorsteller en sekondant, raadslid Ross en raadslid Donald. Dankie, MM.
As gevolg van die urgency daarvan en omdat dit ook deel van die Easter vakansie gaan dit nog wees en dat dit hulle basies baie vinnig haastig is om dit op te slaan, dat ons net na die raadsbesluit dat ons die publiek, daar's nie tyd vir publieke deelname nie, maar ons moet die publiek dan ooreenkom inlig daar rondom asseblief. Thank you.
Ons neem kennis daarvan.
Dat ek weet ons sal nie weer na 'n raadsvergadering toe kan kom nie, maar daar gaan mos nog basies gesprekvoering wees rond met die mense wat die aansoek doen, dat die munisipale bestuurder gedelegeerde bevoegdheid het om die ooreenkoms namens die raad aan te gaan. Okay, 5.8 is die aansoek om vervreemding van erf 2789 Straysby. Hierdie is ook 'n aansoek wat nou al baie lank voor die raad is en dit is 'n aansoek van Meals on Wheels in Straysby. Daar's 'n vakante erf, eintlik 'n baie groot erf net langs die huidige perseel wat hulle gebruik. dink die huidige perseel hier hulle en hulle wil juist die grond bekom om hulle eie perseel op te sit om te bedryf as 'n plek van veilige hawe veral vir huislose kinders. En dit is in 20. So Marius, ek weet nie waar enigiets wat jy wil toelig rondom hierdie application.
Sonel, gaan jy? Munisipale bestuurder. Ons het 'n terreinbesoek gedoen op die perseel in Oktober 2021 was ons daar. Toe was daar sprake dat hulle op die stadium die hele aangrensende perseel van hulle wou gehad het. Dit was so 'n klokmond van omtrent 6000 vierkante meter. Intussen het hulle gesê maar het ons agtergekom maar as 'n beperking op daai stuk te grond is gesoneer as public open space waar daar ook 'n waterprobleem is en toe het Meals on Wheels op 'n stadium gesê nee, hulle wil net 'n gedeeltetjie van die grond daar gebruik of op daai stadium was dit aanliggend aan hulle bestaande fasiliteit en hulle het toe vir Meals on Wheels Western Cape area gevra om hier te prepare. Die opdrag was, however, we have established a working team that will spearhead this project and under the Meals on Wheels project proposal, submit the application and all relevant supporting documents to Cape Agulhas municipality and liaise with municipal representatives. So op die stadium het ons nog nie 'n aansoek en terreindiagram gekry of enige bouaansoeke of enige iets wat hulle van Western Cape se Meals on Wheels van ons weet nie. So dis hoekom hierdie ding so gesloer het. So ons weet nou nog nie wat 'n spesifieke gedeelte van die grond dit is nie, want ons sal moet uitsny die public open space, ons sal moet hersoneer, ons moet die nat gedeeltes uitsny. So sodra ons van Meals on Wheels Western Cape dan nou die spesifieke grond het, gaan ons ten minste weet hoe groot dit is en dan kan ons 'n markwaarde en so meer bepaal. Maar Sonel, kan ek miskien net inkom as hy iets te sê het.
Dus ons het die plan en is inderdaad so dat die ene langs hulle, dit is hulle eiendom, daai 2788 is hulle eiendom. Dis so dat hulle langs dit wou erf gehad het. En dit is so dat die personeel klomp werk daaraan gedoen het. Maar toe Saloma teruggekom, mevrou Gous, en gesê sy wil 'n tweede ene bou, maar sy wil die seentjies nie dogtertjies skei. Sy wil nie reg langs hierdie huis bou nie, 2788 nie. Toe het sy en mense gaan kyk in die oorkant. Nou op die plan kan ek eintlik maar vir Abraham vra. Abraham, Tlakwana Muna. Dit beteken kom gou hier. Boeie Ons sal hy sê fika lapa. Abraham, as jy net vir die mense kan wys dat hierdie oop gedeelte van Melvin se kant af tot die grens daar, dis die blok wat sy wil hê. En dat is daaroor 'n besluit kan neem. Is daar iemand se hand op? Ek nou nie gesien nie.
Dis nou net die pypsteel gedeelte wat ons daai tyd aan gespreek het as die pypsteel.
En die sonering en dies meer is als vir haar koste, is so ons afgespreek. Sonel, is reg?
Net miskien van stadsbeplanningskant of dit moet eers uitgaan op publieke deelname voordat ons met enige iets kan begin van stadsbeplanningskant af.
Ek dink dis hoekom dit staan dat ons in beginsel net dit bespreek en dan die proses aan die gang sit. Dis eintlik al wat ons goedkeur vandag, net die beginsel.
Maar die in beginsel seker presies wat hulle daar wil doen.
Korrek.
Want dit sal 'n wesenlike effek hê op die bure se kommentaar as hulle weet wat langs hulle gaan gebeur. So.
Speaker, dan is ek ben omdat daar so baie werk om te doen dat ons nie in beginsel dit goedkeur nie, maar dat ons kennis neem en dat die administrasie die proses saam met hierdie dinges kan neem. Reg. Dankie. So
Ja,
we,
maar saam daarmee, maar miskien maar net 'n versoek dat ons dit nie nou baie langer meer los nie. Dit is maar miskien aandag gee, net die stukkie af en die publieke deelname ding doen en wat julle ook al moet doen, maar dit bestorm nou maar net aandag gee daaraan asseblief. Dis al versoek van my kant af. Dankie.
Okay. Dankie Somaris, het jy nou die regte besluit?
Ek het hom nou dat die raad neem kennis van die aansoek vir die vervreemding van 'n gedeelte van daai 2789 dat alle wetlike prosesse gevolg sal word en nadat die terreinontwikkelingsplan ontvang is deur die aansoeker sal ons die publieke deelname proses volg om die publiek die ooreenkomste aan te lig. En daarna as ons die publieke deelname proses het, bring ons dit terug raad toe en dan hanteer ons die aansoek.
Sonel? Reg?
Sorry, you can see from the information in front of you that Mrs. Carstens is a town planner in the directorate of the development of the provincial department, has been there for 24 years. She possesses the requisite skills and expertise. She currently serves as an external member on the Eden or the Garden Route Joint Municipal Planning Tribunal, also the Breede Vallei Municipal plug in to serve as a member of the MPT for Cape Agulhas municipality. So I'm not sure if there's any questions before we go into the management recommendation on page 26.
Any comments, questions, input? Kain?
Yeah, you will also note that Mr. automatically assume that is where secundis are part of, so we will not have a situation where we do not have a quorum for the municipal planning tribunal of January. So this is his last day that he serves on the audit and performance audit committee of the municipality, and he also needs to be replaced. So that subsequently leads us to the next item as well, which Blackie is going to lead us into. I think we can start with the filling of the vacancies first. Blackie, 5.10.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, I think the detail is in the agenda item why we ended up with 3 vacancies at this point in time. We advertised the position as per the charter, and this time we went through the Institute for Internal Auditors, and we got a record total, I think it's a record for the country, of 54 applications, of which 19 was from the Western Cape. And we did say in the advert that preference will be given to Western Cape candidates because also of the cost. And of the 19 applicants which we've listed there from the Western Cape, we selected 7, or the committee selected 7 for interviews, which they felt would be the best to add value and to fulfill its mandate in terms of the Act. And the 3 people that came out tops, and it was unanimous, is listed as Mr. Basil Fink. I think a lot of people here might know Mr. Fink. He was Chief Director of Provincial Treasury for supporting local government governance. He was a member at some stage at the municipality, was CFO at the municipality. He's currently involved with the EU funding of assisting the Northern Cape municipalities on their governance issues. So somebody with vast experience on municipal matters. James Gura is currently the chairperson of the Institute for Internal Auditors. He's a CA of Capitec. Highly qualified. He's got risk management behind him. He's got IT management or IT controls behind him, IT audits. He's a certified data analyst, and he's also currently a driver of combined assurance and business continuity, which is an area which is fairly new in the municipalities, and most municipalities are still struggling with that. So I think there's somebody who can really add value in those two areas. And then Zulfa Abrams, she's currently the Chief Audit Executive at University of Cape Town. Also, she used to be with the government. She was with the Department of the Premier as internal auditor, so she knows government, vast public experience, and a very dynamic person. So these are the three candidates that the committee is recommending, and which they believe will really add the value to the municipality as it should be. From my point of view, I've worked with audit committees for many, many, many years, and this is probably the strongest committee I've ever seen put together. So I think if we can get them here, I think the municipality can be very proud. Thank you.
Thanks, Blackie. Can we, any comments, or shall we accept? Accept, consensus. I thank you. Blackie, but also from council side, or on behalf of council, there are two people stepping down now. It's Mr. Strauss and Mr. Vumazonke, correct? Would you please, on our behalf, thank them and extend our appreciation for the work they've done to Cape Agulhas municipality, and that we are really sad to see them go, but thank you, we appreciate it, their service.
Yeah, I will do so. Mr. Strauss says that there's always a year break, so in the year you'll be back again.
Thank you very much. From my side, as the accounting officer, I also want to thank the two gentlemen. They've added significant value, and I also want to wish them well in their future endeavors. I know Mr. Namsla is going into the consultancy business now, Blackie, and Mr. Peter Strauss is just taking a break. Thanks. Appointment of the chairperson of the audit committee. Because Mr. Peter Strauss was the chairperson, we need to appoint a new chairperson now from council side. So Blackie will just lead us into that discussion as well.
Speaker, yes. Because of the vacancies, Ms. Stevens is the only one left in the committee. so for continuity, and she served on other committees as well, so she's very well versed in audit committee functions. It is proposed that she take over the chairperson's position. She's in the first term. They can do 2 terms, so there's still a number of years that she can serve as the chairperson, and it's also for continuity. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Blackie. Colleagues, can we accept consensus? There's consensus, Marius. Thank you.
Thank you. 5.12, it's a report to council on the MPAC activities for circulated together with the agenda as an annexure, and this is for council to take note of the activities of MPAC, and specifically the special MPAC meeting that was held on the 19th of January 2023. I think it had to do with the writing off of the irregular expenditure, and which is also captured in the management or the MPAC recommendation on page 31. So I'm not sure, chairperson of the MPAC or Blackie, if you want to add anything that council must be aware of.
Chairperson, there was just in a nutshell, the minutes where this item was discussed some time ago. The unauthorized expenditure 544,399 wasn't specifically mentioned in the resolution. Only the 25,000 Rand item was, because it was a focus area. During the AG's audit, they looked at it and they said that technically or legally, the committee has not approved that amount. So they put it back into the financial statement as irregular. And we've discussed it again, and the committee recommends that it be now written off. So there's nothing sinister. It was just a minute mistake that happened some time ago, and it is now to get it out of the books of the municipality.
Thank you for that, Blackie. Councillors, can we accept the recommendation of MPAC? Consensus? Thank you.
Thank you. 5.13 is to do with the preferential procurement policy, the review and the amendment. I think most councillors would be aware was a national situation at one stage with the preferential procurement policy where a lot of supply chain management processes of municipality was impacted on, also led to, due to that, there was projects that municipalities could not implement because they were waiting for the outcome of the, I think it was the Constitutional Court at the time. That judgment has been passed down on the 30th of May, and which resulted in the preferential procurement policies that needed to be amended. So the CFO, will indicate to you that from Cape Agulhas municipality, we weren't that much at risk because we were actually applying already in terms of the Concord judgment, but I'll give over to the CFO just to give us a little bit more background and context before we approve the amendment of the supply chain management policy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the actually already touched on it, indicating that the municipality, in terms of the court ruling, were never really at risk in the way how we apply our policy. However, BE, it's at 80-20 and then 19-10. How you will look at it and how you will actually then award points. So there were guidelines provided from Provincial Treasury, National Treasury on this. And as it's stated, it's indicated that each municipality have to decide on how they will actually apply this. So we made certain amendments to this to say, well, in the past, we only use the BE. If there's a certificate and the points, we use that as the only way in order to take into consideration. But what we're doing with the proposed policy now is to say, yes, that the BE points will be a certain percentage. If you're local, you will get a certain number of points. If you're within the Overberg district, you will get a point. But all of that will still be within the 80-20 and until 90-10. So that was the guideline provided. And then all of a sudden from Provincial Treasury, they back off and say, but well, they don't see it like that. But I think in our instances, we already provided them with the way how we will apply it. And I believe seeing that the municipality within that guideline can determine that we will still be within the correct guideline and directive given to apply that. And that was actually the main change to that. So remember, in terms of supporting our own small businesses in our area, it was always a point, where do they get some benefit? Now, at least within that 20 points that normally be awarded, they will get some benefit in terms of point scoring up to the maximum of that 20 points or 10 points. So this is what we propose. We already provided it to Provincial Treasury as well to say this is the way we're going to apply it. But yeah, I believe there will still maybe input from this, but I think from our side we have to apply it because the ruling was actually till the 16th of January. So if council approve it, then that will be the way going forward. But we don't foresee any major disruption or impact on this, except now where we will also awarding points if you're local within the district at least to get benefit when we assess our tenders.
Any comments?
Okay. Die goedgekeurde plakkaat deposito tarief, councillors will be aware that we've got a poster policy which is being commonly referred to where in the past specifically when elections happen, political parties used to pay a 250 rand tariff for putting up posters. I think when the by-election in Ward 5 cropped up, there was questions about the existing application of the tariff policy, because suddenly you saw a steep rise in the costs that were supposed to, or where political parties were used to paying. And that brought us to the discussion where we had a PLC party liaison committee meeting on the 10th of January, where it was raised and political parties felt, listen here, this is a bit unfair. We used to pay this 250. Now we suddenly have to pay something in the region of 5,000 Rand. And I know the Freedom Front Plus also inquired about the policy, and we made it available to them. And that is where we indicated that the policy has actually been approved some time ago, but it wasn't applied as it was approved by council. And that led to some unhappiness with the political parties at the time. That is why they raised it. And then we made an undertaking at that PLC meeting that the CFO will bring the existing policy again to council to see how we can most probably amend it, specifically to allow for a more affordable rate for the by-election in Ward 5, which is happening on the 15th of February. So, Mr. CFO, I'm not sure, do you want to add to that? Or?
Min of meer in lyn met die manier hoe die munisipaliteit dit toepas. Ook wat dit is R15 per plakkaat, maar ook wat hy dan 'n boete klousule het. So die enigste rede hoekom ons dit gebring het dan na die raad toe, want ek dink daar was 'n interim ooreenkoms wat ons het net om die aangeleentheid aan die gang te kry en toe te laat dat dit wel gedoen kan word, is om te kyk na die minimumbedrag, maar op die einde van baseer al die inligting wat jy kry is 'n riglyn, maar ek dink van die raad af het dan die prerogatief om te bepaal in hoe mate ons dit wil toepas as 'n pad vorentoe.
Ja, speaker, twee goedjies voor ek by die plakkaat kom. Is maar net, ek wil nou nie ou goeie weer uitgrawe nie, maar dit is dieselfde soos die Masekani beleid wat nie net nie toegepas is nie. So, dit is dieselfde, maar ek verstaan nie, ek weet nie, dit is vir my so omslagtig, weet, kan anders net verduidelik, wat is die tarief nou eintlik wat politieke partye moet betaal?
Ja, die huidige tarief wat van toepassing is, daar is 'n minimumbedrag van R600. En ingesluit in die R600 is R150 deposito. En dan bepaal hy ook dan, is dit basies, word dit 'n bedrag bepaal van R20 per plakkaat. So indien daar byvoorbeeld tot en met 100, sal dit min of meer in lyn loop. Sodra dit dan nou meer word, dan word dit bereken. So gewoonlik in die aansoekvorm word aangedui hoeveel plakkate benodig word teen R20. Maar as ek sê die minimumbedrag wat vasgestel is R600. So indien daar nou meer plakkate opgerig sou word, uiteraard dan word dit bereken teen die R20 en wat dan nou die kostes ooploop. Maar die depositobedrag wat ingesluit is net die R150 waar dit is.
Ja, speaker, so as jy 100 opsit, dan is dit R600. Maar as jy 101 opsit, dan is dit 2000.
Ja.
Dan is dit 2020.
Ja, soos van afhangende van die aantal. So
as dit meer as 100 is,
dan is
dan werk hy R20 per plakkaat.
Wat dan addisioneel is wat dan bykom tot dit. Ja.
So dat is hy R2020 vir
Plus R20.
Ja, plus R20. Ja.
Dat is R620.
Ja.
As dit 620.
Ja, so dit hang af van die hoeveelheid wat die bedrag bepaal.
Ja, nee, ek het nie probleem met die betaling nie, want ek het mos gesê in die vergadering grapsgewys, ek gaan leen by die Vryheidsfront as ek geld wil hê. Sorry, jy kan dit goed doen en goedkeur en dit is nie uitvoerbaar. Jy moet dit uitvoer. Wie gaan die plakate tel? Ek meen, laat ons goed doen wat konkreet is en wat uitvoerbaar is vir die munisipaliteit. Hier is bitter mense, baie mense by die munisipaliteit wat kan tel. Daar is 'n probleem daarby.
Kyk, die beperking was 100 plakate per party en ek meen dis is nou belaglik. Menende dat as ons volgende jaar in 'n provinsiale verkiesing wil veg, mag jy net 100 plakate opsit. So jy mag in elke dorp 10 plakate opsit. So jy weet, dis mos nou belaglik. So 'n kam kan 'n lekker paar rand maak as jy daai perk opstoot. Nou soos dit nou staan, mag ons 300 plakate opsit. Ons het amper 300 plakate nou net met die tussenverkiesing opgesit. So hoe wil jy nou, jy weet, maar nou het iemand in Struisbaai ons 'n groot guns gedoen en ons wil graag daai geld nou terug hê want hulle haal ons plakate af. So wie gaan dit nou tel? Julle moet nou gaan tel asseblief, want hulle is nou af. So die gesprek wat ons gehad het wat gesê 'n bedrag wat jy moet neersit wat 'n deposito insit en eintlik moet die aantal plakate onbeperk wees teen R20 per plakkaat. Dis wat ons gesê het. Dan kan elke party maak wat hy wil.
Spreker dan net in die vorige op 'n punt gesê, weet ons is nou daar is 'n policy. Ons kan nie nou die policy verander nie. Dit wat ons nou doen en toegepas het, moet ons aanhou toepas. En dat ons dit so spoedig moontlik kyk weer na die policy. So soos ek verstaan, is die policy R600 en vir 100 plakate en vir elk wat jy meer sit is R20. Dit is eers moet daar policy wees. Is dit nie die huidige wat ons toepas nie?
Nee, hy het gesê R5000, R20 'n plakkaat en net 100 plakate. Ons het dit sodanig het ons gaan betaal. Ons het vir 100 plakate plus R5000 betaal by wat is aan naam Rogaya.
Okay.
En so dis hoekom ons toe in die PLC gesê het dat dis eintlik 'n bietjie van 'n beperkende beleid selfs vir 'n tussenverkiesing, wat nog te sê vir 'n provinsiale verkiesing. En toe is die voorstelle gebring en dis wat Hannes hulle nou vir ons hier in vervat.
Ja. Maar wat ek nou verstaan wat uit Hannes vir die policy van R5000 was goedgekeur. Ek weet nie wanneer dit goedgekeur was nie. Maar wat nie toegepas was nie. Maar wat nou toegepas was is die R600 plus die R20. En toe ek kom navraag doen, toe word die policy uitgehaal wat goedgekeur was wat nie toegepas was nie. So wat my voorstel is dat wat op van toepassing wat ons toegepas het, dat dit nou voortgaan toegepas word die R600 plus die R20. Ek meen dit om dit deur die tussenverkiesing te kom, dan moet ons werklik kyk na die policy om dit toe te pas wat in die policy staan en wat polisieerbaar is en wat nie polisieerbaar is nie. So ons moet weer kyk na die policy wat die VF gesê het, 'n bedrag en laat die partye moet daarna die plakkaat weer gaan afhaal. As ons dit gaan afhaal is daar 'n boete wat van die deposito afkom. Reg.
Ons moet nou so gou as moontlik voor die 2024 verkiesing wat om die draai is, gaan sit en daai beleid nou finaliseer tussen ons. So ek sien hande.
Dit is so laat ons iets doen wat uitvoerbaar is en wat nie vir die raad onmoontlik is nie. Ek meen ons wetstoepassers kan baie ander goed doen as wat gaan plakate afhaal en telefoon. Laat ons 'n bedrag daar sit met die deposito aangesluit en as jy die plakate afhaal, ek meen dat moet daar 'n bedrag wees wat afkom, maar ek meen jy kan nie 'n bedrag hê wat jy gaan sê soveel plakate nie, want die een wijk is groot as die ander ene. Algemene verkiesing is die hele area. Kan jy nie 100 plakate opsit nie. So maak 'n bedrag net vir 'n verkiesing vir plakate met 'n deposito in. Finies en klaar. Met die beleid daarbey wat insluit die afhaal en die opsit van plakate.
Dis die gedagte, Raadslid.
Spreker, dankie. Ek wil saamstem wat die burgemeester sê, maar ek wil ook verder byvoeg. Die huidige beleid sê ook dat jy moet jou plakate afhaal binne 2 dae. Dis nie moontlik nie. Kan ons weer terugkom na die 2 weke periode om plakate af te sal dit waardeer.
Speaker, dit die laaste insit vir my, dit is baie belangrik, ek weet, as die deposit toe wat partye moet betaal moet van so 'n aard wees. As die deposit sê byvoorbeeld R500 is en ek hang 1000 plakate op. Nou hoef ek, as daar nie iets in plek is, dan gaan ek maar net so sê, die munisipaliteit gaan die plakate na die verkiesing vir my moet afval, ek betaal maar die R500. Maar dit moet van so 'n aard wees dat die mense hulle eie plakkaat moet afval. As hulle dit afval nie, dan moet daar iets in plek wees. So dit maak eintlik sin dat daar 'n goeie deposit betaal moet word, maar dat ons dit net moet kyk na hierdie voor die volgende begroting, dat dit in plek kry vir 2024. Want daar's baie partye wat maar die plakate dan na die verkiesing. Dan wag vir die winter dat miskien afwy.
Collega's, ons het net 'n praktiese reële nodig vir hierdie ding wat oor 2 weke als verby is. En dan moet ons besluit op 'n behoorlike beleid wat vir ons in die toekoms gaan, want onthou eers moet die verkeersmense wetstoepassers opdrag kry om dit toe te pas wat die beleid sê. Nou, wat gaan hulle doen? So ek dink ons moet vir die MM los dat hy vir ons 'n riglyn gee waarby ons hierdie jaar speel of hierdie 2 weke speel, en dan moet ons as raad gaan besluit wat is die beste beleid vir ons vir die volgende jaar. Is dit korrek so? Ek mag nie 'n voorstel maak nie, maar ek bespiegel maar net.
Ja, meneer die Speaker, as ek net kan noem, ek dink as 'n interim reëling wat gesê was net om die prosesse aan die gang te kry, wat was die voorstel gewees, maar wat ons op die tafel gesit het, is om te sê by die minimum van die R600 in terme, en dat dit, as die raad voel dat dit die reëling is wat nou dan gaan geld, ongeag die hoeveelheid. Maar ek dink wat dan belangrik is, soos wat u ook tereg sê, en as jy gaan kyk hoe die ander munisipaliteite is, dat jy die depositobedrag eerder hoër maak. Daar's wel nie 'n koste aan daar verbonde nie, maar sou dan daai plakate dan verwyder moet word. Dan kan jy gaan sien die boete wat hulle dan toepas uit die geld, want jy sit met R150 deposito. En jy moet gaan 20 of 30 plakate afhaal en gaan die munisipaliteit geld kos. Maar ek dink dis waarna gekyk word, maar dit was die interim reëling net om te sê kom ons werk dan op die minimum bedrag vir nou. Dan ook as die maksimum van hoe dit dan nou toegepas word. Maar wat ek net vir julle net moet noem, die plakate koste alhoewel in die tarief afsonderlik vervat is. As jy gaan kyk na die raad se beleid, vorm hy deel van advertensieborde, plakate, dis 'n baie wyeer beleid. Wat dit is so, en ek dink wat die mense moet gaan kyk is dan binne daai beleid van wat is die bepalings, want alhoewel hy hier voorsiening maak in die aansoekvorm van 100, verwys die beleid eintlik na 300. So, maar dat die mense dit in lyn kry, want dit lyk as ek na die regulasies kyk van die ander munisipaliteite ook, is daar 'n beperking. In 'n mate op die hoeveelheid en dan ook ek dink wat die gesprekvoering was per lamppaal en al daai tipe van goed en wat die grootte alles word in die advertensie beleid wat duidelik van die raad is wat dit uiteengesit word. Dankie.
Ja. Baie dankie Speaker. Ek dink by die PLC vergaderings het ons al reeds half hoe sal ek sê konsensus bereik dat die R600 nou betaalbaar gaan wees vir hierdie interim period, maar ek stem saam ons sal moet die beleid weer terugbring dat ons 'n bietjie meer die praktiese implikasie daarvan kan in oënskou neem en moet 'n meer komprehensief beleid vorendag kom. So vir hierdie geld die interim reël al wat ons gesê het by die PLC, hulle het nie die bevoegdheid om dit te doen nie, is net Kapagallis munisipaliteit se raad wat so 'n interim reëling van stapel kan sien. So ons wil dit basies net in 'n raadsbesluit formuleer. Dit word nou al reeds so toegepas en dat ons dan ook weer deur die normale prosesse van die raad die aangepaste beleid bring vir oorweging. Dankie.
Die Speaker, wat ek net wil hoor is, kyk, dit is nou vir die raad, is dit dan nou die konsensus, dat ons dan sal bly by die R600 as die minimumbedrag, onder die ewig dat dit as deel van die begroting proses vir die 2023 boekjaar weer hersien word in totaliteit en ook na die sekere voorwaardes wat van toepassing is.
Reg, ja. En
ek weet nie of dalk mens net moet noem wat raad die onderburgemeester net na verwys het om die tydperk wat in die aansoek is. Ek weet dis dalk nie gereguleer nie om na die 2 dae dan te verleng na 14 dae toe as 'n spesiale vergunning totdat die beleid in plek is.
Sewe. Okay, 5.15 is die opkaar verslag vir die 2021-22 boekjaar. So I'll give over to Mr. Zolile Baka, who's going to lead us into this item.
Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, we've got 10 minutes, Zoli. No, you don't have 10 minutes. We still got 10 minutes for the meeting to conclude.
Thank you, Speaker. The other 7 is the due date is still coming, so they are still being addressed. The other 5 we didn't agree with the Auditor General on certain aspects, so there are controls that we are implementing, even on those that we didn't agree with them, to make sure that we close any loop that could possibly be there. But yeah, future dates still coming.
Thank you. Any comments, any questions, any input? It's easy.
De sake deur die munisipale bestuurder, ek het geen dringende saak op van mosies. Ek weet daar is nie noodwendige mosie nie, maar daar was vrae ingedien, mosie van vrae by die speaker se kantoor. So hy sal die raad net daarom kon toelig.
Dankie MM, ek het 'n memo gekry onderteken deur raadslid Mokotwana en raadslid Matthijssen wat maar net 'n mosie van vrae hiermee dien ons as die diensleweringsparty in die ANC 'n mosie van vrae in rakende die forensiese verslae en ondersoeke van die volgende: 1 die mosie van wantroue teen meneer Paul Swart, uitvoerende burgemeester van Kaapstad munisipaliteit, en 2 die ondersoek deur die Commercial Crime Unit. Hiermee vra ons dat terugvoering gegee word by die raadsvergadering wat sal geskied op 31 Januarie 2023. Die antwoord op die eerste ene is die proses is aan die gang. Ons verwag binne die volgende 2 weke die verslag en dan sal ons dit daarvandaan vat. Wat die tweede een betref, ek dra geen kennis daarvan nie. So die crime unit.
Ja, nee, van administrasie se kant af is hulle nou dat die raad het versoek dat die saak eintlik na die Provincial Commercial Crimes Unit oorgegee word. Ons het sessies gehad, ons eerste engagement was hulle wat ek self, raadsheer Jantjies en ek dink Blackie besoek afgelê het by die kantoor in Bellville, waar ons die brigadier eers oorspronklik sou gesien het en toe sê ons verwys na die persoon net onder haar. Hulle het toe ondersoekbeampte aangestel. Die ondersoekbeampte het toe later kontak gemaak met die munisipaliteit. Hulle het ook al ter plaatse besoek hier by die munisipaliteit gedoen waar ons met hulle ontmoet het. Hulle het vir ons die prosesse verduidelik wat hulle doen. Ons het van gedurende die tyd gereeld probeer kontak maak. Ek moet sê die ander 2 menere sal vir u ook sê die kontak is of die kommunikasie is maar baie gebrekkig van die Provincial Crime Unit se kant af. Hulle het ook op 'n stadium versoek geraak. Daar was ander inligting wat hulle ook in oorweging wou geneem het, waar raadsheer Jantjies en meneer Blackie Swart met hulle ontmoet het binne in Napier. Hulle is toe daarvandaan weg, waar hulle aangedui het dat hulle wag vir inligting om die persoon wat basies die diens aan die raad moes gelewer het en dit nooit gelewer het nie, om vir hom op te spoor. Hulle het nou al heel wat prosesse aan die gang gesit om te kyk of hulle nie die meneer, ek dink is Nolan de Jager, Blackie, op te spoor, want dis basies die scope van hulle ondersoek, en tot op hede het hulle nou nog nie van meneer Nolan de Jager kon opsporie. So dit is waar die proses nou huidiglik is. So indien hulle enigstens verdere inligting bekom, dan het hulle onderneem, sal hulle saam met myself as die munisipale bestuurder kontak maak, en sedertdien het hulle nog nie weer vir ons enige aanduiding gegee. En ons het nou al 'n habit tussen myself en Blackie dat ons amper op 'n 2-weeklikse basis net weer kontak maak of waar nie enige verdere inligting rondom die aangeleentheid is nie, maar tot op hede is daar nog geen vordering van die Provincial Commercial Crimes Unit se kant af. Dit is basies die inligting wat ons het
Dankie,
op die
MM.
stadium, speaker.
Ons aanvaar dit so. Dankie. Dit bring ons by die
No, Speaker, we welcome the report itself, but the reason why we brought even that, maybe the correspondent to your office was the delay process, and also we couldn't find maybe the response, what the current situation was. So now we know what is happening, because we're not just here as a councillors playing the opposition, but we also represent our constituencies and our political parties. So the information is needed so that we can even go and report what transpired, what the current situation is. And we're not trying even to pinpoint and say that one and that one. But the finding, if we receive the finding, then we'll be verified and also know where are we at. Because it's currently a long process and a long journey that we never expected that it's going to be.
Okay.
Speaker, ek sal dit net 2 sent ingooi. Ek sal dit op 'n stadium graag wil ingelig wees. Wat se tipe ondersoeke rondom my as persoon in die kantoor aangaan en wie die ondersoeke dryf en wat is die aard van die ondersoeke? Want as daar iemand ekstern aangestel was, wil ek baie graag daarvan weet en wat die kostes van so 'n ondersoek sal wees. En die klagtes staan verbinde. As daar eksterne ondersoek is en wat is die aard van ondersoeke? Thank you.
Einde van die vergadering. So dankie collega's vir julle
Sorry,
insette.
no, speaker, there's still an in-committee.
Ja,
Oh, sorry.
Ek kom daarby. I'm in charge.
Oh, sorry.
So ons gaan nou die mense wat ingeskakel is groet en dan gaan ons voort met ons in-komitee vergadering. So Marie, sê maar vir